Karen reported my wind turbine as a threat. She didn't know I was a federal energy officer. The complaint came in just after lunch. A suspicious structure, possibly dangerous, spinning in someone's backyard. It's a security risk, possible hazard to aviation. That's how it started. My name is Elijah Trent, and I never imagined my career would collide with a backyard wind turbine. Not like this. After 2 decades in clean energy enforcement, I left the chaos of DRIC and moved back to where I grew up, Summit Hills in Oregon. It's a pine-shaded, mostly retired town, stitched together by hobby farms, gravel roads, and the occasional red, white, blue mailbox on stilts. I was ready to breathe again, or so I thought. I bought a 6-acre parcel and restored my granddad's old farmhouse. With permission from the county, I installed a small wind turbine and a backup solar rig. I was well within my rights, zoning approved, noise tested, and certified under the Clean Energy Residential Act of 2024. It powered my entire house and fed back into the grid. But 3 weeks later, Karen showed up with a clipboard and an attitude. Chapter 1. I knew something was off the moment I saw her standing by the fence, arms crossed, visor low, lips pursed so tight it looked like she was holding in a lemon. The wind was still that morning. No birdsong, just the hum of my turbine blades rotating lazily overhead. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just stared like the windmill owed her rent. I stepped off the porch, coffee mug in hand, wearing my usual worn jeans, a Columbia fleece, and a sun-faded cap from my time at the DOE. I wasn't trying to intimidate her. I just didn't feel like playing nice. "You lost?" I asked, half curious, half knowing. "I'm Karen Witherspoon, president of the Summit Hills Homeowners Committee." "Never heard of it," I said, setting my mug on the railing. "And this property isn't part of any HOA." She squinted at a crumpled folder she held against her chest like a badge. "We're a developing committee. Transitional? You'll be hearing more about us. Doesn't sound legally binding?" "We're organizing," she said stiffly, "to keep this neighborhood beautiful and safe." I looked behind her. Past the wood fence was nothing but fields, pines, and the distant whoosh of a 2-lane highway. From what she jabbed a pen at the turbine like it had insulted her dog. That, I almost laughed. "You mean my wind turbine?" "It's dangerous," she snapped. "Ugly and loud. It's depreciating property values. And it could fall over land on someone's shed or worse. Not to mention the electromagnetic disruption." "EMF," I raised an eyebrow. "You think it's frying your TV? I know it's disrupting airspace," she barked. "My brother's a pilot. He says these things are unregulated hazards." I took a slow breath. I'd dealt with people like her before, entitled, paranoid, power-hungry, but I hadn't expected it to follow me all the way out here. "Karen," I said calmly, "I filed a permit with the county. It was approved by the Environmental Board and reviewed by the FAA. The unit's 600 feet from any occupied dwelling and below the 200-foot threshold, and it produces clean power. You need to take it down." "No." Her nostrils flared like a bull on a short fuse. "Then I'll report you." "You do that." She did. 3 hours later, a patrol car rolled up my driveway. 2 officers stepped out, young guys, clearly not from the area. They looked sheepish even before they spoke. "Sir, we got a call about a suspicious mechanical structure on the premises. Neighbor reported it as a threat." I didn't bother to argue. I walked them around the property, showed them the turbine specs, my paperwork, even the stamped approval letter from the county's Clean Energy Task Force. One officer whistled low. "You work for the government, retired now. But yeah, 2 decades in federal energy regulation. Wrote most of the standards for distributed renewables in this district." He glanced at the turbine again. "Looks solid. She's just pissed I don't answer to her fake HOA." He nodded slowly. "Well, sorry for the trouble." But the trouble had only begun. The next morning, someone zip-tied a cardboard sign to my gate. "Say no to ugly danger blades, stop the noise." At Ross the day after that, A group of neighbors, maybe 6 or 7 of them, stood in front of my driveway with folding chairs and matching flyers. Karen paced in front of them, like a tour guide on a mission. She was handing out petitions. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I watched from my porch, jotting names in a notebook. Some I recognized, some I didn't. A few were from the adjacent subdivision, a gated one, completely separate from Summit Hills. That night, my motion light flickered on at 2:16 a.m. I checked the camera. Someone had spray painted the word eyesore in sloppy red letters across the base of my turbine. I filed a police report the next morning. The sheriff, an older guy named Donnie, who used to coach my high school baseball team, sighed and offered a tired shrug. "We'll check it out. But you know how folks get? They think HOA means law. Well, it doesn't. No, it doesn't." He agreed. But Karen's not the type to quit. 3 days later, it escalated. I just finished respraying the base when I heard the sound of tires crunching gravel. A tow truck. Big one. Orange strobe lights flashing even in broad daylight. "What the hell?" I muttered. Karen was behind it, smug and triumphant, arms crossed like she'd just won a chess game. The driver stepped out. "I got an order to remove unpermitted equipment, something about a code violation. You got paperwork?" He hesitated. "Not really. Just a note with an address." "This is illegal," I said flatly. "Touch that turbine and you'll be in federal violation of property seizure statutes." Karen walked up, smug as a cat with a feather in its mouth. "You can't stop this," she said. "We voted. It's out." I pulled my phone from my pocket. "Good." Then smile for the camera. Because this is live now. I'd rigged the porch cam for live stream. Within minutes, the feed hit the local forum, and from there, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, the comments poured in. "She's towing a windmill. Is this real LMAO? This lady needs a hobby." Plot twist, he's a federal energy officer. She's toast. But Karen wasn't just persistent, she was unhinged. That night, she held a town hall in her garage. I wasn't invited, but my friend Marla, who lived 2 doors down, sent me a voice recording. Karen was ranting about property rights, terrorism, urban refugees bringing liberal tech into traditional towns. She said I was a threat to community values. She said I was manufacturing storms. I didn't know whether to laugh or report her. Instead, I got to work. Chapter 2. The funny thing about people like Karen, they always underestimate the paperwork. I don't mean bureaucracy and the red tape, soul-sucking kind of way. I mean the kind that builds walls you can't punch through, the kind that wraps around you like armor, the kind that, when done right, makes you untouchable. So that morning, while Karen was back out on the curb collecting signatures from retirees with sun hats and paranoia, I was inside pulling records, permit logs, county zoning exceptions, federal renewable infrastructure clauses, FAA approval certificates, even the exact wind load calculations I'd submitted accurate to the decimal when I applied for the grant that helped me install the turbine. Karen was loud, but I had receipts. I sent a registered complaint to the County Energy Board and CC'd the local precinct, the Department of Environmental Quality, and just to be polite, the FAA liaison I used to work with in Portland. By noon, I got a call. "Mr. Trent, we received an odd report about your wind installation. Apparently it's a military-grade hazard to residential integrity." I laughed. That sounds about right. The caller, a woman named Lisa from the county's Clean Energy Department, was already familiar with my project. We've had 3 anonymous complaints in the past week, all citing different codes that don't even exist. "Karen," I muttered. Lisa sighed. "We'll issue a formal notice verifying your compliance." That should shut her down. You've never met Karen. Meanwhile, the drama kept growing. Someone dropped off a stack of fake violation slips at my mailbox, printed to look official, sealed in plastic, taped to my fence. The HOA logo was a cheap knockoff of the actual Summit Hills Civic Council seal. But that didn't stop them from spreading. By week's end, 5 more homes had joined Karen's cause. One of them posted a sign that read, "No tech tyrants in our town." Another accused me of harvesting airwaves. Marla, bless her heart, started showing up at my place every morning with a thermos of coffee and a running commentary. "They say you're summoning tornadoes now. That's new. They're forming a subcommittee. For what? To study turbine-related birth defects." I nearly spit my drink, but deep down, it was getting to me. Not because I feared them, but because I couldn't believe how fast people will trade facts for a pitchfork when someone charismatic tells them to. Karen wasn't just pretending to be in charge. She was turning it into a religion. So I went to the county building myself, and that's when I found the real crack. Karen wasn't just organizing a rogue HOA. She was using a fake incorporation filing to claim jurisdiction over a 12-block area that didn't actually meet the minimum legal threshold. No quorum, no vote, just her, a printer, and a few forged signatures from the neighborhood's quieter residents. I took photos. I downloaded the PDF from the public record system. I highlighted everything she'd falsified, including a community bylaws document that misspelled ordinance 7 times. She was claiming HOA authority, illegally, and she'd already submitted a request to have the turbine dismantled by the county using emergency nuisance codes. Except nuisance law requires actual evidence, which she didn't have. What she did have was noise complaints all filed from the same IP address. Hers. I sent all of it, every lie, every fake fine, every signature she forged to the county district attorney. Not because I wanted her arrested, but because I wanted it on the record when karma came knocking. The tipping point came 2 days later, during the first official neighborhood meeting she dared to host. This time, I went. It was in the clubhouse of the adjacent subdivision, ironically, a neighborhood she didn't even live in. The invitation said open forum on neighborhood safety, but the sign outside said turbines, technocracy and trespassing. Guest speaker, HOA President Karen Witherspoon. I stood in the back while Karen paced the room like a preacher. "The turbine doesn't belong here," she announced. "It's a danger. It creates anxiety. Property value has dropped since its installation. My niece can't sleep. My dog won't stop barking. And he's always been calm." Someone raised a hand. "What's the law say?" Karen blinked. "What the law?" the woman repeated. "Didn't he get a permit?" Karen bristled. "This isn't about permits. It's about principle. It's about peace." That's when I stepped forward. "Mind if I speak?" The room quieted. People turned. Karen's eyes widened, but she composed herself. "Mr. Trent doesn't live in this subdivision." "No," I said, "but I live in Summit Hills, and I'm the man you've been lying about." She tried to cut me off. "This is not," I held up a folder. "These are your fake notices, your forged signatures, your illegal HOA filing. I've sent them to the county clerk and the DA." Gasps. I turned to the crowd. "Karen has no legal authority. She's manufactured every complaint. The turbine was approved by every relevant agency, and she's been harassing me with fake fines and lies for weeks. This isn't about safety. This is about control." Silence. Then one voice from the back. "He's right. My name was on her petition, and I never signed anything." Then another "same here." Karen's face turned white. I turned back to her. "You don't care about wind. You care about power, but this town doesn't run on fear anymore." Later that night, I posted the full meeting video online. I didn't add commentary. I didn't edit a second of it. It went viral in under 24 hours. Local news picked it up. So did a renewable energy blog. Then Reddit. By the weekend, Karen's name was trending in our state subreddit right below a post titled, "This woman tried to ban a wind turbine and got roasted by the actual guy who wrote the law." The comments weren't kind, but they weren't cruel either. Many were angry, but most were something else: tired. Tired of self-appointed tyrants weaponizing fake rules. Tired of seeing one loud voice try to silence others. Tired of watching people weaponize fear and pretend it's virtue. Absolutely, here's chapter 3 of the story. Chapter 3, you'd think that after being publicly exposed, Karen might retreat, but Karen wasn't wired that way. She doubled down. By Monday, she launched a new campaign she called Save Our Skyview. Printed signs appeared overnight like weeds stapled to poles, tacked to mailboxes, even zip-tied to the HOA bulletin board, which, by the way, she installed herself and no one authorized. The sign read, "Say no to government overreach. Remove the blade before it's too late." Petition inside. She left stacks of the form at the local diner, the gas station, even the vet's office. It might have worked, except this time. People were watching, and this time, I wasn't alone. Marla, my neighbor, came by that morning with her laptop and 2 mugs of dark roast. She'd printed out every local post and reaction online, every comment thread, every Reddit link. "Look at this," she said, flipping her screen to me. "Your speech at the meeting. It hit 800,000 views last night, and people are pissed at her." "Good," I said, but I didn't feel satisfied. "Not yet." "That's not all," she added. 4 of the people who signed her new petition, they're threatening to sue. She used their names without consent again. "They're talking to an attorney." That got my attention. Then came the real blow. A middle school teacher from the next district over reached out via email. She said she'd recognized Karen from the video, apparently years ago. Karen had tried to disband a local science program in that town by claiming solar cookers were indoctrination. "She's always had a vendetta against renewable energy," the teacher wrote. "She says it's un-American. You should know, she doesn't stop easily." That's when I realized this wasn't just a neighborhood dispute. Karen had a pattern, so I shifted strategy. I didn't fight her anymore. I exposed her. Each day, I released a short clip online. Just facts. One at a time, 1 post per day. No yelling, no drama, just the truth. Monday, Karen's fake HOA isn't registered with the state. Tuesday, noise complaint tested by county 0.4 decibels above ambient. Legal limit is 5.0. Wednesday, FAA confirms turbine height not a threat to any aerial corridor. Thursday, Karen filed a false nuisance report with a forged address. Each post ended with the same tagline: "Energy is a right, not a weapon." People started sharing. Then local reporters started calling. I gave them the documents. I let them verify every page. The story spread. On Friday, something shifted. The local news station parked a van on my street. They wanted a live interview. I declined at first, but then they told me Karen had already agreed to go on at 5 p.m. Of course she had. She couldn't resist the spotlight, so I agreed on one condition. They had to let me go last. They aired the segment live. Karen appeared first, standing in front of a blooming rhododendron and a carefully staged American flag. She wore a pearl brooch and spoke like she was accepting a PTA award. "The community has spoken," she declared. "We deserve peace and protection from overreaching outsiders who bring unnecessary risks." No one asked for that windmill. Then they cut to me. I stood in front of my turbine. Calm. Factual. No theatrics. "This isn't about a windmill," I said. "It's about power." Karen pretended to speak for the neighborhood, but she forged petitions, spread false claims, and weaponized community trust to silence one person she didn't like. I moved here for peace, not to be policed. Then I stepped aside so the camera could show the turbine. A single hawk circled overhead. The blades turned slow and steady in the breeze. Peaceful, silent, clean. That night, Karen's petition was removed from every storefront by 8 p.m. But karma wasn't done. Saturday morning, I got a call from the county clerk's office. Turns out Karen had submitted another request, this time trying to get a historic district designation applied retroactively to her part of the neighborhood. Her goal: ban non-aesthetic structures, i.e. my turbine, except she'd attached altered photos of the neighborhood dated 5 years earlier. Photoshopped, poorly. And one of the photos hilariously included a white van that hadn't existed in our county until 2023. It even had a dealership decal. I emailed the clerk the evidence. The next day, Karen received a certified warning from the State Historic Commission. Filing false documentation is a felony. Do it again, and we prosecute. Marla baked a lemon pie that day, just because. That night, I walked outside to check on the turbine. The breeze had picked up. A light whoosh filled the air, like the soft exhale of a giant sleeping peacefully. And for the first time in weeks, the street was quiet. No shouting, no signs, no folding chairs. Karen's lights were off, but I wasn't naive. I knew silence didn't mean surrender. Not with people like her. Absolutely, here's chapter 4 of the story. Chapter 4, if there's one thing small towns take more seriously than bake sales or football, it's a vote. And after everything Karen pulled, every fake violation, every forged document, every protest disguised as a committee meeting, she finally crossed the line that made people snap. She tried to get the turbine shut down through a county ordinance vote. That meant she needed community support. She assumed she had it. She didn't. It started with a flyer shoved in every mailbox in Summit Hills emergency town. Vote should industrial wind turbines be banned in residential zones. Tuesday, 6 p.m. Community Hall. Bring ID. Only verified residents can vote. It looked official. It smelled like desperation, but it was technically legal. If 51% of eligible homeowners in the district voted to support it, the county would have to review the zoning variance even if the original permit was valid. That's how Karen planned to win, by mob rule. But I had something stronger than signatures or outrage. I had truth. Marla, bless her relentless soul, turned her living room into a war room. She set up whiteboards, color-coded spreadsheets, handwritten notes of every resident we knew supported clean energy. She organized carpool groups to the vote. She even recruited her daughter, a film student from Portland, to create a 3-minute video that explained the difference between residential turbines and industrial ones. The title, "This is a Wind Turbine, Not a Weapon," we posted it the night before the vote. And somehow through Facebook shares, local email lists, and pure word of mouth, it reached over 12,000 views in 18 hours. On voting day, I expected tension. What I didn't expect was a literal line of residents wrapping around the community hall, some holding coffee mugs, others lawn chairs, people I hadn't even met yet, veterans, teachers, parents, high schoolers tagging along came out, not just for the vote, but because they'd had enough. Enough of the lies, enough of the fake rules, enough of being told what they could or couldn't do on their own land by a woman who had declared herself queen without anyone's blessing. Karen arrived at 5:53 p.m. in a white cardigan and matching clipboard. She tried to cut the line. Didn't work. A man in a mechanic's jumpsuit, his name was Vince, I later found out, stepped in front of her and said, "We're all here because of you. You can wait like the rest of us." She muttered something under her breath and slunk back toward the end of the line, gripping her clipboard like a lifeline. Inside, the voting room buzzed with quiet energy. The ballot was simple. Should residential wind turbines, compliant with current zoning, be restricted or banned from Summit Hills? Yes. No, it felt like more than a question. It felt like a referendum on the kind of place we were becoming. Were we a town where fear dictated policy, where one voice could hijack the majority? Or were we still capable of community? I voted. Then I waited outside. More people kept arriving, some from adjacent towns, a few reporters. Even a city councilwoman showed up, incognito, just to observe. By 8:30 p.m., the vote was closed. At 9:02, the results were posted on the front doors. A handwritten note from the voting commission. Total ballots, 213, yes 37, no. 176. The crowd broke into scattered applause. Someone shouted, "Let it spin!" Baby, and the tension cracked into laughter and hugs and relieved high fives. I didn't cheer, I didn't gloat, but I did look toward the edge of the lot, where Karen stood frozen, staring at the paper like it had personally betrayed her. She didn't say a word. She turned, got into her car, and drove off without looking back. That night, I walked the long way home, Through the back trails lined with pines and the occasional porch light, the sky was clear. The stars looked like they'd been polished. As I stepped onto my front lawn, the turbine blades turned slowly above me, whispering in the quiet wind like they had nothing to prove. And in that moment, it hit me. This wasn't just about a machine or a woman on a power trip. It was about reclaiming space, reclaiming truth, reclaiming what it means to live in a community where facts beat fear. Chapter 5. 2 weeks passed. Most of the signs disappeared. The flyers stopped. The whispering died down. But one thing hadn't gone quiet, Karen. She'd filed a formal defamation complaint against me with the county, claimed I'd misrepresented her in public, that I'd incited harassment, that my turbine was a symbol of authoritarianism. I wish I were joking. The county board, to their credit, saw through most of it, but to maintain transparency, they scheduled a public hearing, an official forum to let both sides state their case. Open to residents, recorded, on the record. Date June 11th. Location Summit Hills Civic Hall. Topic review of conduct allegations and HOA status claims. Karen thought it was her last chance. It turned out to be her public reckoning. The hall was packed. Not standing room, only over capacity. Fire marshals had to cut off entrance after 120 people. The rest stood outside watching through open windows or phones live streaming from the back. The first speaker, Karen, she stepped up in a pastel blazer, hair in a perfect coif, face already shiny under the stage lights. She brought a binder the size of a dictionary and started reading. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I stand here today not as a villain, but as a concerned citizen. There were sighs. She went on for 20 minutes. She blamed outsiders, technological encroachment, visual pollution. Even claimed I had personally installed spyware in the turbine's hub. She held up one blurry screenshot of a circuit board and declared it suspicious wiring. I nearly choked. When she was done, the room was silent, not supportive, just stunned. Then they called me. I didn't bring a binder. I brought 3 things: a single-page letter from the Department of Energy verifying my career credentials, a zip drive containing every legal document, approval, and zoning certification for my turbine, a printed screenshot of Karen's HOA rules document where she had written electricity makes birds infertile. I stepped to the mic, looked straight at the board, then at the crowd, and I spoke. I came here to find peace. I installed clean, legal, federally approved energy on my own land. I followed every code, every permit, every step. I held up Karen's fake violation slip. This isn't about energy. This is about ego. I turned toward her. You tried to make yourself the law. You forged authority, manipulated neighbors, and spread lies about a machine that harms no one because you couldn't control it. People murmured. Cameras clicked. I turned back to the board. You don't have to like my turbine, but you can't outlaw reality. And you can't let one voice fake a system to silence another. Then came the twist no one expected. The clerk, bless her boldness, stood and addressed the room. We conducted a parallel review of Miss Witherspoon's HOA filings. We found 9 inconsistencies, including forged names, false claims of jurisdiction, and unlawful solicitation of neighborhood fees. Based on state statute, her group is not recognized as a legitimate HOA. Karen gasped, and then a man stood up in the back. My name is Peter Gleason. I'm an assistant U.S. attorney with the Regional Justice Office. I'm not here in an official capacity, but I am submitting a formal complaint regarding fraudulent activity tied to Ms. Witherspoon's filings. The room exploded in whispers. Karen's hands trembled. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. For once, she had nothing left to say. 3 hours later, the board issued its verdict. The turbine would remain. Karen's HOA claim was dismissed as invalid and potentially fraudulent. A formal recommendation was issued for a criminal inquiry. That night, the town held its first real community gathering in years. Marla set up a fire pit. Vince grilled ribs. Kids rode bikes between yards like it was summer in the 80s. I didn't bring up Karen. I didn't need to. Everyone already knew how it ended. Or, mostly ended. Final call to action meta. What do you think, was Karen just misinformed or dangerously manipulative? Should small towns have the power to override individual rights with fake committees? Where do we draw the line between concern and control? Let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts on justice, community, and personal freedom.